All right, let's pick up from essentially from the new week open, which is right here, I believe. Right here, pretty much. So at the moment, at the time, I didn't want to trade Monday, right? I wasn't sure, right, if this momentum meant anything. I was going to essentially see, right, if Friday's momentum, right, which cleared highs, right, but at the time, right, the new day open is, the new week open is like right around here. So incoming to Monday, right, we have a potential liquidity grab that led to take liquidity up here, which is considered a continuation BOS, right? So as we start the new week off, we reach the discount of our immediate range, right? And from here you could see that we gave essentially a pullback and then internal unwillingness, internal structural range, right? And then the continuation lower, right? So, right, as we come lower, we see liquidity come to be taken, right? And as for what this wick was, right, pretty much falling back to our roots here, right? If we're referring to this candle on H1, right, we have right a potential SC which took liquidity, caused a violent move to the downside, then led to an intermediate structure break, and we then came back for 50%. This happened during London, right? So once I woke up on Monday for the trading session, right, I didn't necessarily want to trade anything here because of our new structural range intact, right? Obviously this would have been easily my preferred POI, but either way that is still inside of, you know, a pretty much equilibrium, right? So in this situation, I just thought it was okay for me, right, to pass on it. And honestly, I don't even trade Mondays that much to begin with, unless I see something that's very, very clear, right? But as you can see during session, right, we pretty much got, you know, an immediate continuation, right, which is unideal in terms of, you know, how I would like to take a position. But right, this unwillingness that pretty much mitigated 50% is now essentially dictating a new bearish narrative, because right, we took the final overall leg there, right? And even though we took this to begin with, right, this could have also been easily a good confirmation to confirm a bearish bias, right? Hence that POI. But what's important to note here is that this high broke the low, right, making this unwillingness, right? And even though this is kind of considered bullish at the time, this now completely switches the narrative, right? And I think it's very important to note that. So as we continue lower, right, we see a mitigation late New York, right? Well, not late New York, but right after the overlap is done, about an hour afterwards, right? Very nice setup here, right? Unfortunately, I was already at the gym by this time, so I didn't catch this. So if you want to refer to the reaction based on preliminary POI being the inefficiency fill, the inefficiency fill leads to that immediate BOS, causing false flag pattern, right? I haven't really mentioned these in a long time, but you know, it's good to see these, right? So as you can see, the false flag pattern actually mitigated right, was that 50%? Almost. Right, so yeah, right at 50% basically. So that then dictates, right, this break of structure, creating the taking out this low, solidify this is a high. This is now unwillingness, based on here, and it confirmed a lower high. So that then I believe mitigates M5. Yeah, M5 open. Right, very sloppy. Is there an M15 candle here? Yep, M15 candle, pretty much 50%, right around there. Right, so that's a decent setup, but not necessarily the bread and butter that I'm looking for. So with that being said, I didn't really trade Monday. I don't trade Mondays to begin with. Right, but now looking at today, right, the issue with today in terms of DXY is this. Right, coming into session, right, obviously we're here, so I'm not trying to take a position immediately without my full confirmation. So as you can see, we created a solidified high based off of a potential mitigation here, right? And then this led to break structure. So this is an internal disruption, and it could be leading into a deeper pullback, right? So now the issue here is that we're in such a heavy discount, right? That now that we take structure, right? Even this is a continuation BOS based on the final leg down, right? Well, it is a reversal BOS in terms of the scalp range, right? But in terms of minor intraday, major intraday, we're still bearish. So now the thing is because we took the preliminary leg out, right? I'm not trying to guess this high. It doesn't make sense for me. So, right, as we zoom out, right, I'd rather wait for this to show its hand, right? So as it's showing its hand, right, I'm looking at my time frames, right? I now see a much better picture in terms of, right, an inefficiency fill that has broken structure, right? Broke structure, which now gives us that bearish narrative. So now I would love to see as high of a premium as possible, right? And now this dictates my continuation. Why? Because we've already taken the liquidity out that we talked about. We gave the reaction, giving us a bullish sign, right? But then immediately afterwards, we break structure, unwillingness, continuation, retracement, continuation, retracement in the process of continuation. But this is now shown its hand because we've broken structure and we've mitigated a 30-minute POI. So now the highest that we can get possible is probably the most ideal scenario. So this will probably hit during London, more than likely. And the same thing can be seen on EURUSD. Right, so as you can see, there's actually a box highlighted there, right? And I'm actually looking at this, not as a point of reversal, not as a point where I'll say, hey, I'm gonna try to sell here to the ground. Doesn't make sense, right? Especially because if we're looking at our overall narrative, right, keep in mind, we are still bullish, right? Low, high, retracement, solidified low, right? So naturally, this is our first target. Well, not our first target. Well, our first swing target, right? But in terms of intraday, that's a very high TP. So, right, I want to see. Basically, I believe it's a daily POI as well. Yeah, it's actually a daily wick, right? So I want to see if this daily wick gives any type of reaction, right? Or if we actually push lower, right? Because keep in mind, there's the final possibility for me would be down here, right? And so I want to see where we bounce off of from, because currently we're having this mitigation in play, but this is kind of struggling to continue higher. So if we do come down here, that is a break of structure, so bearish order flow is in play, so you would need a conversion to take this higher. Whereas now, if we're mitigating this and giving a strong reaction, right, this would be a decent short-term sell, or you could wait and try to catch a longer-term buy, right? But there's a very good chance, right, that a POI could probably bounce back down here, which would, even though would take out our preliminary level of structure, our overall leg would still be intact. So I'm curious to see what happens tonight, and hopefully take a decent position tomorrow. But just based on looking at momentum, excuse me, just by looking at momentum, right? This should more than likely be cleared, especially based on the momentum in play, right? Even though right now in Asia there is a sort of consolidation here. I do want to see what happens up here or down here, right? If we start coming down, right, then technically this is unwillingness, breaker structure, and that intraday sell makes sense, right? But that would only be a short-term play because keep in mind you're still overall bullish and your overall next target is up here, right? Just based on structure, that's a reasonable target to aim for. So as we zoom in, right, I personally would not like to see this bounce off of here just because I don't want to be confused with trying to misjudge this as an overall reversal and not take that continuation. So in this case, right, if we're looking at DXY, right, the ideal scenario is up here. It's a lot more cleaner than EU, whereas here the ideal POI would be down here. But that's a bit of a weird situation in my eyes, right? Just because of how high we are in price, right? How deep of a premium we're in after such a very, very long push up to the upside, right? But either way, I'm still bullish. I have no reason not to be. It just matters. I mean, what matters now is seeing how deep of a retracement we're gonna get. So yeah, right. I did take one position on GU today. Right, not gonna lie, I was trying to pick a low, but I'll show you guys why. Take that off. So this morning I actually missed a pretty big move here. Right, so as I'm zooming in here, right, this is a trade that I believe Rob caught. Right, so there is a 50% POI there, right? But unfortunately, I actually wanted this up here, right? But now in reality, reviewing this scenario now, it makes a whole lot more sense to take the 50%. Why? Because it has the confluence of the M5 and efficiency fill. It has the confluence of structure tap, which is a higher time frame, inefficiency fill, which could probably be M30 actually. Yeah, M30 and efficiency fill there, right? Based on Wick and Wick, right? So it's a higher time frame and efficiency fill. And it also makes sense because as you zoom in, right, order flow, order flow, order flow. That is basically textbook, right? So that makes so much sense, right? Looking at it now, whereas my POI didn't really make much sense. And I did try to catch a re-entry, but after seeing that the new structural range was built, high, low retracement, this retracement was hard to trade because all I saw was efficient, 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 right? I would love to see a standout POI that then, you know, led to a move like that, but deeper. So this one I missed, unfortunately, just because it didn't follow the criteria that I wanted it to. But something to note, right? Something I was noting here, right, is this, even though this kind of looks like weak order flow, right, especially here because we didn't create a new high, right, I still see higher low, higher low, higher low. So, right, I wanted to see if we could make some type of play based on that. Right, and as I'm looking for a potential entry, I need a reasonable entry so I could find a conservative point of interest to want for me to want to take this higher. So as we're seeing, right, price high, low, right, retracement, unwillingness, right? So now unwillingness because we broke the preliminary level of structure. Right, so the thing here is that this actually mitigated something up here. Mitigated, took it out, internal disruption, right? So now that I'm zooming out, I see this large candle cause the disruption and you know, the liquidity grab up here and the taking of liquidity up here. So I believe that my execution was actually a very, very conservative entry, right? In terms of, I saw that this inefficiency created that jump up. So not only that, but there is potentially liquidity here. So my parameter was the inefficiency fill and this serving as my point of invalidation. So this is where I took my position. I believe it was, yeah, it was right at 2 pips, somewhere around there, 2.1. And so my immediate first target, obviously up here, but I do see, right, potential equal highs there, even though they aren't actually equal highs. But I still wanted to use this as a primary target, not a primary target, but my first target. So here's the issue that I ran into. So as soon as I see, or for example, as soon as I see this create the new higher high right here, it makes all the sense in the world not to go break even, but to take my stop loss right at the low here, right, which cuts my risk actually by, I would say, 30%. No, not 30%, 13 out of 20, about about 70-60%, right? So my risk is now cut in a piece. So as soon as I now see this continue higher, right now I think it's okay to be break even here, right? Especially because we created 1 high, 2 high, 3 high. It makes all the sense in the world to me. So I know now that if price comes back into my entry, I know that it's wrong. So I just want to be as conservative as possible with moving my SL. So here's the issue that I ran into. The issue that I ran into, right, is that this is taking so long to go, right? So long to go, and I referenced this. So we have a diminishment of volume, no momentum, right? So either I'm going to see this pop off, or this is going to melt. And actually, let me see if I have the chart when I took my entry. Yeah, here's my entry pretty much. Control. So this is the entry that I was taking on the 32nd this morning, right? Just to show you that was the execution. So this execution, right, had no supporting volume, right? So I knew now either this is gonna fly or this is not, or this is just gonna die on me. So as soon as we reach up here into these areas, I'm gonna take a partial, and I took the decision of taking my new SL, I actually brought it up here, right? Because this is the move that caused that final push up. So I know naturally order flow must mitigate this and go no deeper than this in order for it to continue. So as you can see, I actually exited with a partial and about a 3R here. So it's not the best, but, well, not a 3R, but you know, you see what I mean, a 2R. But I think it's very important that I did that because I had the confirmation to close. So I made sure to take a partial and just to trail the rest, right? Something I've learned over the past couple months is that it's not worth it to close the trade early. It's not worth it at all, especially if you're in profit. It doesn't make sense. Even though I know exactly what's going on in your head in terms of, oh, maybe it's going to reverse on me, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's not going to keep going anymore, right? So I think I should close. I don't think that's very rational, especially when you're in profit and you've already secured a partial. So I've pretty much forced myself to never, ever close the trade early. It just doesn't, I can't justify it, and it only piss me off in the aftermath. So as you can see from there, the point of validation was hit. It was already about 9:30. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna call it a day, right? The order flow continuation here was broken. So this is actually a micro break of structure. This is a lot of momentum. There's no bullishness, no demand giving me a reason to want this to take higher, right? So even though we do have a potential mitigation here, right, I didn't really care for that. It's, you know, it's, even though it did come and take target, right, as you can see, the price action after that was messy, unclear, messy, unclear, and just not good for me, in my opinion, to want to take a position. So I said, you know what, I'm good, right? At least I didn't take a loss today, which is fine. So, right, that will bring us to AU. This was something that I was peeping a bit, but I was more focused on GU. And as you can see, I don't have EG or UCAD on here again. I was looking at UCAD like a lot over the past week or so. And I just don't like the price action that it's given me. I don't like it. It's very choppy. And it usually won't give you a reaction. It'll usually just touch a POI and then, you know, melt the other direction. So it doesn't give you that parameter to want to take a lower time frame entry. In my opinion, not always, but a lot of the times when I tried to trade it. So I just said, you know what, I'm good. I'm not going to stress myself over a pair. Take that out. EG, I haven't traded it either. I don't remember the last trade I took on EG, if I'm being honest. And EG, the brokers that I traded on they have pretty big spread. So it's just like, you know what? What's the point? Can I look at EG? But yeah, that'll bring us to AU, which is something I wasn't referencing too much because I don't want to sell. I don't want to buy dollar. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to buy dollar, especially if we're looking at this here, right? Even though it was looking bearish based on this weekend's analysis, right? I'm always referring the overall leg, right? And in the preliminary leg. So even though you have a deep retracement, there's always a chance this could show its hand and then go higher. So I don't want to force a sell, even if this is inclining to me to think it's in a sell. Kind of goes into that whole trade what you see, not what you think you see, right? So I think this is a reversal, but in reality, bullish. You see what I mean? And the only reason why I'm referencing that leg and not this leg, right, is because overall leg, right? So that's pretty much me trying to stress continuation over reversal, right? So based on that, okay, I didn't want to sell this. I didn't want to sell this for one, right? But there is no reason for me to buy just yet, especially on Sunday, Monday, which was around here, right? As you can see, we had intraday break of structure, right, here and here. So naturally, you know, you would want to take a sell here, and that made a lot of sense. And I believe Chris took a trade on this today. That made a lot of sense. That's 100% okay. Especially during session, right? Because during, well, when we're seeing this, right? Let's actually zoom in here, and we're seeing this overall POI start being tapped. Let's zoom in. Oh my gosh, here we go again. There we go. Right, so as soon as this, right, is generating a push to the downside, right, I still wouldn't want to take a sell here, right, unless you're obviously playing no demand. This is still considered high risk. So the cool thing here is that we mitigated something, right? But this reaction not only broke structure, but it actually took the POI. So this is an internal disruption in terms of this range, signifying unwillingness, right? So a limit here makes a whole lot of sense, right? I wouldn't necessarily need to wait for that confirmation to take this on a lower time frame. So this makes a lot of sense. But now if I was looking at this, let's say M1 currently today, oh my gosh, I don't know why this does this every call. All right, I didn't lose you guys, right? I didn't lose you guys. Okay, cool. I don't, okay, then it's trading view then. All right, we'll just go to M3. I tried getting this fixed too, guys, my bad. Made a couple calls yesterday, thought it was fixed. Might be the website. Yeah, it could be the website. All right, cool. Let's go back. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. All right. So where were we? Right, we were here. Right, POI, break of structure, disruption. Right, so the limit up here makes a lot of sense. But if I was looking at smaller time frames at the time, right, in terms of looking at that continuation, right, it would make more sense. Actually, let's go to M2. Right, it would make more sense, in my opinion, for it to want to sell off here, which is the potential order flow continuation. So seeing this, right, a new structural range and then the pop off, that could be seen as internal disruption towards the upside now. So if you're playing based off of order flow, right, this mitigation of the M5 candle is a lot more high risk because you're technically guessing a high, technically based on smaller time frame order flow, right? In comparison to if you're only focusing on your minor intraday perspective, then this is actually just only a premium. So either way, you know, it's just I'm trying to cover the different perspectives. So in terms of looking at minor intraday solely in direction and then acknowledging an internal disruption, right? Even though you'd have a wider stop, it makes a lot of sense as to why this sells off from here. But if you're looking at it from an M1 perspective, trying to get, you know, a more refined entry, right? Then this is an internal disruption. And theoretically, I would only take the trade if we're in this parameter here. Right, which is a pretty, it's like 3 pips, right? Not too bad. But either way, that never reached. So that would have been a potential conservative entry, very conservative entry, I must say, especially because momentum, demand, POI, 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 right? That's as conservative as it really gets. So this would have been one of those really, really good trades where if it did hit that, right, this is worth a higher risk in my opinion, just because of how much, just because of how, you know, how much Confluence is supporting this move. But like I said, I don't want to sell XXX USD. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to do it because I'm trying to think of the overall picture. So I'm trying to catch a good entry without picking a low, right? So even though on GU I was technically picking a low, I was actually taking in a conservative entry based on order flow, right? So as you can see, there's like pros and cons to being a minor intraday trader in terms of you only taking trades based on minor intraday, and there's also pros and cons to trying to wait for M1, M2, M3 refinements, because for example, you won't always be able to refine a POI like we did, for example, on GU today, right? You won't always be able to do that. Where is it? Here. You won't always be able to do that. You see what I'm saying? So your model is very heavily dependent on the type of trader that you are. That's why I think it's really hard to show you guys how to make a model, right? They're super subjective. So, but yeah, either way, I think that covers today's lecture. Do you guys have any questions? Oh, I do have a question though. Do you guys mind if we start doing Saturday calls on Fridays? Like around, like same time, like 11? The reason why I'm doing that is, for one, I'll have like a clear, well, it'll be fresh off my head what I was trading on Friday. And two, it gives me, you know, a lot more freedom on Saturday. You do me a favor and open your TSI settings? Yes, here you go. 1 second, 1 second. These are my parameters right here, which is pretty much 7 a.m. CST to 10 a.m. CST. I believe this works off of Eastern. Yeah, and that way I get everything out of the way, everything RCV out of the way Monday through Friday, and I can focus on other things on Saturday and Sunday. Excuse me. But yeah, I try to keep the TSI super light just so it doesn't bother me when I'm on what's it called, when I'm on my blacks, on the black background. Here we go. Here we go. You actually caught a nice trade on EURGBP this morning. Right, now that you finally see this move, right? So here's my thing, right? This looks like, just off the bat, it looks like we're coming for these. It looks like it's coming for highs. Because even though our immediate leg is bearish, right? Look at this. It's okay, 15. Right, just off the bat, I haven't even looked at this. Here's the thing. We have low, high, low, high, super deep low, but still confirmed higher low. But the thing is there's momentum carrying this. There's very strong structure breaks inside of there, and I think that if we're zooming into this range here, what do you see here? I see this. I see that. Hold on, that's gonna bother me. Hold on. I see that. And then I see this. Right, so that's a massive momentum shift, internal disruption, and liquidity grab. And this actually came back, you can see, to the wick that's in confluence with structure. So I think this is bullish. I think you could easily see a push down, quick push down, hopefully. Yeah, but this is a very, very key thing to note, right? Because this is showing a tan, it's showing you order flow disruption, everything, right? But actually, there's something that I didn't like about your trade. Actually, where is let me see. Can you at me on the chart you posted today? Can somebody at me on his post today? Where is it? Where is it? Daily high is coming. Yes. Let me see. Well, let me see if I could find it real quick. I hate that this never fucking does that. Alright, hold on. Let me just open our DMs because you sent it to me on there. This, I didn't like something here. This does not make sense to me. Here. I don't understand how that's a POI. That doesn't make sense to me. Your POI is your inefficiency, point of invalidation there, or a more conservative point of invalidation there. Right, so realistically, you could have taken, right, a inefficiency entry and kept your same SL And even though it's a minor fix, this is kind of like the same conversation that we had with Thomas the other day about I don't want to say properly using rules and concepts, because this type of scenario, trying to play this again, I promise you, you might mess it up sometime. B volume was fire, yes, right, high demand, right, and absolutely, well, even though there's a decline there at the point of entry, I wouldn't have used volume there. I would have loved to use the momentum, and I would have loved to use the inefficiency fill and the point of validation, right? But I don't like trading based on a POI that already cuts price. So you see how that violates SC rule, is that it cuts price. Right, so I would only play this with SL here, which is still a very small SL, and that's still a fire trade, you know? But this is not SC. Right, that's a very important rule. Never allow a POI to be cut by price. Right, because even if
about cutting the price concept, but that clears things up.
Okay, cool, perfect.
I thought it was something different.
What did you think it was?
Not that. I don't know how to explain it. I would have to show you.
All it really means is that if this is a POI, there should be nothing to the right.
Right.
And I think there's a lot more longevity into that, because, for example, right, like, I'm not gonna act stupid. I know what this is, right? I know what that is, right? But I don't agree with the concept because it doesn't coincide with what I see as an SC. You see what I'm saying? So that's why, you know, that rule makes a lot of sense to me, because I like to play the immediate range. But yeah, other than that, do you guys have any questions? This is still a very good trade, though. Not gonna lie, very good trade. I really like how you built a narrative, right? You added the structure break, momentum, right? I know the volume here, right? Peak in volume, right? And conservative entry, conservative SL. That's a very good trade, right? Like, don't get me wrong, right? Any and every other smart money or high RR, I don't want to say smart money trader, every other high RR trader would have taken this right here with this parameter, and with that being like a 0.6 pip SL, right? This would have been fucking 1 to 50 easy. But taking that kind of stuff, you guys know what I have to say about stuff like that, right? The more conservative you are, the more trades you win. The more trades you win, the less you lose. The less you lose, the more you make. Right? That's where the longevity is. Right, so can we end it off here, or does anybody have any questions? Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a trade-off, though. I don't think, like, for example, even if you get good enough to always trade 0.5, 0.6 SLs, I promise you, whenever you have the higher SL, you're always going to have a better hit rate. So I don't think until you get more proficient with your entries, I don't think that kind of I don't think that kind of makes a difference, because you're either going to be a very risk averse person or a very pro risk person, you know? So you're either going to want to look for this, because this is where the cloud is. This is where the IG fame is, you know what I'm saying? But this is where the longevity lies, in my opinion, which is why I've really transitioned over to showing you guys to trade like this. It makes more sense. There's more longevity to it. The psychology is a lot easier to comprehend and actually understand, because you're rationally making a educated decision on why something should go up or down, right? And that justification helps your mind not only take the entry, but in case you lose, you understand why you lost, right? And also, you don't want to be trying to execute 4 entries just to get a 1 to 12, a 1 to 15, a 1 to 20, in my opinion. A lot of people won't get that 5th entry. They'll give up at 3 or 4 losses. Yeah, rationality. Right, like for example, like a year ago, probably I would be very POI, reaction, micro break, entry. Right, that's just because I would be looking to pick the bottom, and I learned that, you know, my hit rate wasn't the best, and I learned that there's more longevity in letting it show its hand. Right, so it's pretty much what the style is evolved into. Right, I can get these 1 to 50, 100s, but it'll take me a lot more tries. Yeah, if you're going for the speaker and chasing through. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I agree. I agree. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna start switching over the calls to Friday. Yeah, like I said, probably same time. But yeah, other than that, I'll see you guys on the next call.